we are excited to have Neely McQueen here with us for our next interview. Neely, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm a youth worker from Seattle, Washington. I work with junior high and high school students. I wrote a book for girls called 99 Things Every Girl Should Know, and I blog at morethangossip.com about working with teenage girls.
That's fantastic.
Thanks.
And so you're here to share some practical wisdom and, in a sense, some ideas for youth workers, but we're going to kind of take on a different topic, something that's not often addressed within the church. And so the topic, because we can't see, because the screens aren't working at this moment, are 5 things that the church communicates about girls and how they might misunderstand those things.
Correct. And what we're going to do is kind of look at 5 things that are happening in the world of a teenage girl and how the church might be misunderstanding them or communicating things that compound the message in girls' lives. So what I have here is I'm going to show you some post secrets. They're secrets from teenage girls, and we're going to look at them and kind of talk about them. This first one, it's kind of small, so I'm going to read it for you. It says, I feel like I have a vast universe of beauty, magic, love, and wonder in my mind and heart, but I'm not pretty. I think I will be alone forever. And I think it's really important to understand for a teenage girl how much of her identity is wrapped in her physical body. And so when we talk about things related to the physical body, when we throw around words like hot, my wife is hot, or hottest is modest, we're saying those things in a context maybe that comes from a good place in our heart, but we're misunderstanding that most teenage girls think that hot is size 2 and on a magazine cover. They say that 92% of teenage girls wish they could change at least one thing about themselves, and that within 3 minutes of looking at a magazine, they're depressed. It says that teenage girls, University of Colorado said this, teenage girls worry more about being fat than losing their parents, nuclear war, or cancer.
Wow.
So the physical identity is a huge value for a girl. And so when we throw words around casually, maybe even in humor, we don't realize kind of the depth that has for a girl and what the power is behind that.
Now, before we go on any further, I would say we've kind of had this talk before, but I found this conversation to be largely helpful for me as a male youth worker to be thinking about these things through a different lens, because it's difficult for me to understand them in the same perspective. But I know exactly what that's like to be in a conference setting or event setting and you hear the speaker talk about how great their wife is, and so a lot of times it's like, yeah, my wife's so hot. A lot of times it's meant completely, innocently, didn't mean to be taken the wrong way, but you're saying it could be damaging as far as girls' perspective.
Yeah, because they've already identified what hot is. So when you're using that word, you're probably speaking about the compassion or the kindness or how your wife loves Jesus. Maybe those are the words that you're defining it, but instantly a teenage girl has a totally different description of what that is. So we have to realize that, like I said, when we throw that word around, they've already made up their mind what that is.
Interesting. That's very good. What's next?
Okay. This one says, maybe if you knew why I support this cause so much, you would stop all of those cutting jokes. And that's to write love on our arms. And so the idea a little bit is there's a lot of self-destructive behavior happening for teenage girls. And what I have found is we make light of it. We make light of it in a couple ways. We use it for a joke a lot of times. And then we also don't provide a full follow-up plan for it. We throw out like bulimia or anorexia or cutting yourself. And we don't actually have a step-by-step plan to care for girls that are dealing with that. And so we make light of something that is actually really intense and really powerful in a life of a teenage girl.
Yeah, and so they might hear someone joke about it, again, maybe innocently, had no clue, but someone who's dealing with that is taking it very personally, and now it may be harder for them to even come out with that secret.
Yeah, to say anything. I heard a speaker talking about bullying, which I thought was an interesting topic. I thought it was great that the church was talking about this. But he made a reference to a girl that was bullying him when he was in junior high, and he called her a BMW.
Okay.
And he said, maybe you don't know what that is, but it's a big mountain woman. And then he went on to call her fat. And I thought he didn't realize the power of his words.
Sure.
Because, again, a girl would identify herself who is struggling with anorexia or bulimia. No matter her size, she's identifying herself as fat.
That's interesting.
So we throw those words around, again, casually. Okay. This one, it says, this is me when I was 15 and anorexic. I'm 26 now, and my family has never talked about it. I think we assume a lot about the conversations that are happening at home, that we don't have to talk with our girls about what's happening in their life on a really personal level, and we assume those conversations are happening at home. I think about abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse. Maybe we're assuming that girls are getting that conversation at home, but they're not. Or we assume someone's caring about their physical health at home, but maybe they're not. And so we remain silent on some of these issues that are so important to a teenage girl because the assumption is being handled in the home.
Yeah. That's great, because I think, again, this kind of keeps coming back to being aware, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of the more that we hear these types of things, these helpful hints from a female youth worker say, guys, we need to be thinking about these things in a different light, different context, because we need to be more aware of what girls are dealing with.
Right. And I think what we'll find is teenage girls are looking for someone to tell them the truth about these topics. They are open. They want to know. They want to talk about these real issues. And we'll get to another slide that will kind of communicate that.
Very good.
This next one's a little risky, so I apologize. But it says, I read sex tips in Cosmo. I'm a Christian virgin, and I plan to wow my future husband on our wedding night. And here's the deal, is sexuality. We have done a good job getting girls to take a purity pledge. We have done a good job saying to girls, don't have sex before you're married. We have done a poor job coming alongside them and showing what it means to live a life that is fully pure, heart pure, and not because we hope someday to get married, but because we know we're followers of Jesus Christ and our life is about living fully devoted to Jesus. And, I recently was talking to a college-age girl who said, I was convinced that I was supposed to just wait for somebody instead of living my life within the realm of purity, knowing that married or single, God was calling me to purity.
Interesting. So again, we've had a great perspective in this. Our intentions are pure, but maybe we can look at a more holistic approach.
Correct.
That kind of deals with everything in a more impactful way. That's great.
Okay,
last one here, these pictures.
Is the last one that says, my entire life I've been told to hate Planned Parenthood, but I just made an appointment because my mom and I can't talk about down there. And this big one is silence. When we are silent on the specific issues for teenage girls, they will go somewhere to get their information. They will go somewhere. And there's too much at stake for the church to be silent. There's too much at stake in the lives of teenage girls for us to remain silent and let them go other places to get their information. So I think, we have to be willing to engage in those topics. We have to be willing to, know who are counselors in our area who can help teenage girls with these issues. We have to be willing to get messy in the lives of teenage girls.
So this has been helpful in helping kind of reshape our perspective in the way that we think about things, but we're all about ideas.
Yes.
So what are practical steps that we can take to not just be aware of it, but these are examples of ways that what this looks like in your own youth ministry?
So 3 things I think any church could do today. It's not a program. It's nothing. The first thing is this. I think we need to share the stories of other women. And I think we need to share the stories of other women from the Bible, from church history, and from our own churches. When a teenage girl hears you talking about a woman who has done something amazing for God, who has submitted her life to God, who's walked in obedience to God, maybe who's overcome divorce, who has overcome drug addiction, maybe overcome losing her virginity. When a teenage girl hears that story and she begins to identify with it, she begins to be empowered and believe that God might do the same in her. So the very first thing is we can start sharing stories.
Yeah, there's power in testimony there.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And I think there's tons in the Bible. I think we typically do a few, but there are a lot of stories of women in the Bible. And then if you add church history on it, I think as a male youth worker, one of the most powerful things you could say to a teenage girl is you could say, let me tell you about a woman who changed my life.
Yeah.
And that will trigger for her something. It could be very powerful.
That's great. What's step number 2?
Second thing is include female voices on your stage. Whatever your stage is, how big, how small it is, whatever platform you have, include female voices. Again, because it gives a girl a chance to look and go, I can do that. I can become that. There is potential for me. Despite the fact that I don't feel pretty, there is potential for me. And make sure those females that you include on stage, they look different. There are a
Yeah.
variety of sizes, there are a variety of shapes, there are a variety of colors. Make sure they look different so any girl could walk in and go, I identify with that.
That's fantastic. And all these steps have been helpful. I'm a really big fan of this third step here
Okay.
because it's going to be really helpful, applicable, something that is simple but often overlooked.
Yep. I think the third thing we can do is provide mentors. As a teenage girl, I had an absent mother in my life, and it would have been so powerful for me to have another older woman speaking into my life and meeting with me and being a safe place where I can bounce off ideas, tell her what I'm going through day to day. So mentors, it's not a program, it's about relationships. It's not another night of the week, it's about relationships. Mentors is one of the most powerful tools we can provide to teenage girls today.